Welcome back to What Makes You Tick. I'm Stephen Bradshaw, and the reason I created this podcast is to help you find inspiration from the stories and experiences of others. What Makes You Tick is a vehicle for people to share their life's knowledge, their passions, and experiences with you. I get energy and inspiration from talking to people, and my goal through this platform is to help you learn from others and use this knowledge to inform your lives.
Truth. Stay in truth. In every aspect of your life, you lead from love and you stay in truth.
My guest today is Riona Kelly. At the start of 2015, Riona was married with her husband of 14 years and had 4 wonderful children. However, in March, Riona's world would change in the blink of an eye. Riona suffered a spinal stroke and in that moment became paralysed. Riona's pain didn't end there. Shortly after her stroke, her then husband left her to fend for herself and her 4 young children. However, this story is not about doom and gloom. Riona shares some of her experiences with me. The blessing in disguise when her husband left, the practice of positive self-talk and self-love, and the steely determination she had to walk again. She put her body through hell to finally take her first steps. Riona's story is not a solo effort though. In life, it's important to be around positive, influencing people, and in the midst of despair, Riona reached out for help and found a personal trainer, a former professional rugby league player, Keith Mason, to answer the call. Unknown to them both, Keith would become a pivotal player not only in Riona's bid to build her strength back, but also in finding true love. Riona's faith in God is unquestionable, and she believes that the challenges on her path have shown how resilient she is. Riona inspires many people all over the world and is now the happiest she has ever been. I'm Stephen Bradshaw, and this is part 1 of my conversation with Riona Kelly. I am here with the wonderful Riona Kelly, and I know Keith Mason, her partner's in the background there somewhere. But today I'm speaking with Riona, and we're going to talk about loads of different things, to be honest. We'll see what happens. But Riona, welcome to the show. Thanks a million for being here.
No, thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure. It's an honor.
Brilliant to have you. And listen, we kind of alluded to there just before we started recording, is that this is a conversation I've been hoping to have with you for a while now, and you've been a very, very busy person for the last number of years, especially in the last 12 months or so. Things seem to be really taking hold. So I suppose before to get into it, what I do always ask people at the very beginning is that my show is called What Makes You Tick. So it's all about trying to find out what motivates people, what inspires them, and essentially what makes them tick, so that we can then share your story and your learnings to others so that they can use it as inspiration or use it in whatever way they want to apply it to their everyday lives, because everybody's going through some sort of challenges at the moment. But to start things off, Riona Kelly, what makes you tick?
He's lying on the floor in agony. I call him my Jiminy Cricket. If anyone's ever watched Pinocchio, Jiminy Cricket is the conscience of Pinocchio. The person who, rightly or wrongly, whether Pinocchio wants to listen and wants to hear truth, Jiminy Cricket is always there to make him accountable, to pull him up, to love and support when he needs it, but also give him the hard lines when he needs it as well. And that's what Keith is to me. So he definitely keeps me grounded in my own life so that I can see clearly a pathway that I'm going, instead of it being clouded by too much emotion, by too much what ifs. And we don't do fear in our house whatsoever. And if there is, we face it head on. We look at it right in the eye and say, okay, are we going into this storm? And I'm now at the point where fear never wins, never, ever, ever wins. It's a powerful storm that can be transformed in someone's life, but I actually like whirling around in in a lovely big storm, because you find out so much about yourself and you find out new strengths that you never actually thought you had.
Amazing. And I suppose to give people a bit of context to your story, I think it would be good to maybe share your story, and I suppose what has essentially happened to you over the last number of years. And I suppose one of the reasons I wanted to get you on the show was I think you have an incredible amount of resilience, but I also think it's through your partnership and support and how you guys have kind of united together has shown that there's strength in numbers as opposed to on your own. Yes, it's important to face things sometimes on your own, but having support networks and having people around you that you trust and love to help you lift you up when times are maybe a little tricky is one of those things that I suppose you can't take for granted, but maybe it would be good to start at the beginning, if you don't mind.
No, I don't.
And I'd love if you wouldn't mind telling your story about what happened and where you are today.
So it will be 5 years on the 10th of March this year. No, 6 years, sorry. Correction, 6 years that I suffered my first spinal stroke that left me completely paralyzed. My spine went into complete shock and I couldn't do anything for myself. So I was 34, the epitome of health, had a great career for beautiful children. And that aspect of my life I loved, but every other aspect of my life I hated. And I think it's important when you turn around and said about having people there to lift you up and to support and having that good support network, but it's about having the right people. And sometimes we think certain family members, because it's family, it's blood, they should be supportive. And that's not always the case. Partners should be supportive. That is not always the case. And it's about being able to sift through and learning to invite the right kind of people into your life, which I'm very blessed that at the time when I had my first stroke, everybody left. And when I mean everyone, my mammy, my dad, my family, siblings, aunties, uncles, friends, they all did one, they all left. And people go, oh my gosh, that's so sad. And when you look at it like that, it is sad. It is sad that they couldn't be there. But I'm very religious. And I remember a week before I had my first stroke, and I think people who listen to this would identify that when you're not living your true life and you're not being true to your authentic self and you're not allowing people into your life that are right, that are going to help you thrive in life, you're miserable and you feel trapped. And you give yourself 1,000,001 excuses not to get out of the situation you're in. So I remember falling to my knees and praying to God and saying, I can't live like this anymore. I am suffocating inside my own existence. I'm drowning inside my own life. Something needs to change or just take me from the earth because I am dying whilst I'm living and it's not right. And I handed my life back to God and I said, I've made a balls of it so far. I mean, I'm a good person and I'm not nasty and I don't do anything to hurt anyone, but I have a lot of dickheads in my life. And I can't get rid of them. I don't even know how to get rid of them. I don't know where to go, Lord. And I just said, can you please remove anything and anyone who is not going to be a part of my future? Just remove them today, Lord. Remove them now, next week, whenever, but remove them. I'd rather be left alone to rebuild than to carry on the way I am. Little did I know that I would have a spinal stroke, cheers, Lord, become paralyzed and that everyone left. Everyone and everything left. And I really struggled at first. And then I had to remember that I asked for the Lord's help. And when you ask for help, it's not always delivered in the way that you perceive it should be. It comes in very unknown circumstances.
Yeah.
And I then remember being heartbroken, especially about my daddy leaving. I was heartbroken about that. I'd always had a rocky relationship with my mother, so nothing she did surprised me at all. She definitely is a banshee. She definitely is a wild. But
could you explain what happened with the spinal stroke? As in, how did that occur? Was that something that you had been in an accident a number of months before that, and did they connect that to it?
Years before that, and they believe that it caused damage in my spine. And what they've said is that your muscles are there to protect your body as well. So when they lock and spasm, sometimes they unlock and sometimes they don't. They didn't in my spine, but then they did unlock. I was having some treatment, but unbeknown, because I've not had any CTs, no x-rays, no MRIs, nobody knew what was going on. And I was going for acupuncture with a physio, and I kept losing sensation in my legs. Now, this is before my stroke. And she said, this is not right. You can't now stand up and you can't feel your legs. Something's wrong. And she says, I think you need to have an MRI. My doctor then, nah, you don't need it. It's just a little bit of a mechanical issue, a little bit of trauma, it'll be fine. So when those muscles were relaxed off, some clots that were lodged in my vertebrae bled out. And hence I had a spinal stroke. And the sad thing is that if the medical team had done their job properly, they'd have picked it up, they'd have seen it. And I wouldn't be in the position I am today. And then a lot of people can get angry about that. But then if that hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't be as happy as I am. I wouldn't be living the life I'm living. I wouldn't be true to myself. I wouldn't have met the man of my dreams. I wouldn't be living the life I'm living now. So everything happens for a reason. It all happens for reasons. I worked really hard. I put out a post for a personal trainer because I wanted to kind of feel normal again. And fitness was very much my life before my stroke. And nobody would take me on. Nobody would work with me because I had a spinal cord injury and they didn't know what they were doing. And so I'd put out a post. Someone had recommended Keith. I added him on social media. I thought I'll check him out first and see what the deal is. And then he'd like some of my pictures. So I just presumed that he knew that I was paralyzed.
Okay.
So when I messaged him asking, could he train me? I just said, my legs don't work to the best, but didn't say I was paralyzed. I just said, I've got an issue with my legs. He said, come along, we'll see how you go. So when I arrived, he came out to the car offering to help. And I kind of shuffled myself out of the car and got on my crutches. And he said, what's wrong, by the way? And I said, oh, I'm paralyzed. And he went, what? Well, I didn't know that. So I said,
I wasn't in the job description.
No, like, oh, okay, this is, he was a bit flabbergasted. But then the other side of him kicked in thinking, she's arrived here. That takes some guts. She just wants to get well again and try and be the best she can be. I'll have a go. He said, I can't promise you anything, but we'll have a go. And I don't think he realized, because at that time there was no physical connection between us two. He was very professional. Even if I thought something or he thought something, he'd never overstepped that boundary. And in my head, I really didn't value myself at all at that point. And looking at Keith, 6'2", he's built like an Adonis. He's absolutely bloody gorgeous. He could have any woman he wanted in the world. It wasn't even a thought in my head to be with someone like that, because it was something that I just thought, there's no way he would ever be interested in somebody like me. So don't even go there in your mindset, Riona. There's no point, because you're just going to set yourself up for failure. I just don't go there. I was very wrong, because I prejudged by how he looked. Mm-hmm. And instantly, when women see men like Keith, they think player. Mm-hmm. Not a player on the rugby field. They think a player of women. Yeah. Somebody who's not going to be capable. And what we do is we project our opinions of a look of someone, and we make this whole assumption of who they are, and we actually don't even know them. Yeah. And he was the total opposite of what I thought he was. He looks like a giant, but he's a gentle giant. He was so caring and so kind. And I don't think he realized the emotional journey he was going on with me. The first time I did my first squat was with Keith. Now, I actually didn't squat. He squatted. I was leant up against the wall of the gym for support, and my legs were in between his legs so that he could support me. And as I squatted down, perfect, lovely. As I squatted down, sorry, my little boy's just come in. He monitored it. He made sure I didn't go too far, didn't disrupt my spine too much. And then he brought me back up. And I burst into tears. And just that, something that most people take for granted, was just so, it was a revelation for me. Oh my gosh, I did it. And I didn't quite do it on my own, but I did it. And then a girl was training with another person and she was doing a plank. And I was looking, and he said, do you want to do a plank? And I said, I'd love to do one day, but there's no way. And he said, there is a way, we'll have a go. So he said, get your body into the plank position. So I got my upper body into the plank position, but my lower body was not communicating with the rest of my body. And Keith just put one hand underneath my hips, one hand underneath my knees, raised me, and he said, there you go, you're doing the plank.
Love it. Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not doing it. I don't care how you do it. The fact is you're doing it.
Yeah.
And we'll build you to the point where you can do that on your own. And he really took interest in me, and not just in me. He was like, what have you eaten today? You've not brought a protein with you. You've not brought anything to eat after your training session. And I said, I haven't eaten today. He said, Riona, it's 2:00 in the afternoon. What do you mean you haven't eaten? What are you going to do when you go home? I said, get the kids, sort them out. By the time I sorted them out, I'm too tired. He said, so you'll go all day? He said, I'm not training if you don't eat. So he would make sure that after every session that he would then take me for something to eat. And made sure that I fueled myself, or he'd bring a shaker with some protein and made sure that I drank it. And you know, that's people, honestly, in their life, they really don't think that when the going gets tough and they think, oh, I've been grinding at this now for 6 months, I've been grinding for a year, I've been grinding for 18 months, I've been grinding for 2 years, and it's not happening. Jesus, I've been grinding for 6 years nearly to try and learn how to walk again, and I'm still not there. I am still not where I need to be. I am still using my wheelchair when I'm outside. I walk around the house because it's like a blind person in their own home. They don't need to use their stick. They know where everything is. So I use objects to hold on to. I have wooden floors everywhere, so I don't need to walk really. I just kind of penguin shuffle across the floor. And any greatness, anything that you want to do and you're great at anything, it takes so much hard work, so much dedication, the sacrifice to carry on going at times when you don't want to carry on going anymore. You want to quit. And that's when it's so important that the people who you have around you are the right people who can say, it's okay to falter today. It is okay to not want to do it today. It's okay to feel like you want to give up. Guess what? I'm going to carry on for you today. I am going to be the light for you today. I am going to take you through to the next stage. So it's okay to have a day off.
Yeah.
And have a day off.
So let me just go back to the point where you're after you've made a decision to go train, that you needed somebody to train. Okay. So that was the first kind of positive step, or the first step in terms of your recovery, was to reach out to say, listen, I need help. And I think one of the things that people fail to do or are afraid to do is ask for help, because a lot of people see that as a weakness. Whereas in my book, I think that's a massive sign of bravery, because you're showing a bit of vulnerability, and regardless of what type of help you're looking for, by asking for it, it actually creates a whole world of opportunity, right? So by you asking for help, so like by you asking for help there with Keith, that set you on a journey. In that, one, I suppose, is that, okay, I'm willing to work. Okay, now you didn't have all the tools in terms of the education, in terms of nutrition and training and all that stuff. I'm sure you did a bit of training before that, but you kind of opened yourself up to learn, because Keith, in a physical specimen in terms of an athlete, so there was proof in the pudding of, listen, if he's able to get healthy and look like that, he's obviously doing something right. And then secondly, then it's like, okay, well, if I want to walk again, I need to be strong. So could you just maybe describe what that journey was like, from first asking for help through to taking, say, your first steps?
Hell on earth. Absolute pain every single day, emotionally, physically, and mentally. Because when you ask for help, it's one thing saying, I need help. It's another thing explaining what it is, the help that you need. And the thing is, when I had my life changing condition that left me with paralysis and totally transformed my life in a blink of an eye. And people think, oh, it'll never happen to me. And you hear stories about other people and your heart goes out to them. And when it's you, you think, oh my God, this is awful. Even when you do open up and you ask for help, you're still rejecting yourself. You're still in your own mind feeling like you're a burden on other people. And even though people say, you're not a burden, I'm here for you, actually believing that and unburdening yourself to be able to go, okay, I've had this happen to me. I want to go on this journey. But if I take the mindset that I've got on this journey with me, I'm going to F up at every step of the way, because my mindset, what my mind sees, my body believes. Mm-hmm. And if I can't train my mind to see the positives, no matter how hard this journey is, and if I cannot open myself up to really let someone in, to let them know what's going on with me psychologically, because psychologically, if you're struggling, that can mess up everything in your body. And I was struggling, but understandably, I was struggling. I think most people who had been thrown into my predicament, I was a single parent overnight. You know, I had four little.
Explain that, because you were in a previous relationship before that, right? Before you met Keith.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. I was like 95% of women on the planet who make excuses for their partner, who give themselves a load of excuses as to why they're going to stay in that relationship and why they're doing this and why they're doing that. And it took me to have a stroke, become paralyzed, to go, hang on a minute. If I can try and beat this, I don't need you. This is hard what I'm going through now. And if I can go through this, then I can be on my own, because you're not nice. And I should have never got with you in the first place. It was my insecurities from my past and my fears from my past that allowed me to even invite someone like him into my life. And I can't blame him for anything that happened in my life. I have to take accountability for the choices, decisions that I made, even getting into that relationship. And then you have a lot of reactions and actions and consequences that come from them choices. And it got to the point that I just thought, close it up, please. I just got to the point where I just thought to myself, what am I showing my kids? Because my kids are seeing their mammy in intensive care. They've seen her fighting for her life. They're so scared that they're going to lose their mammy. She's going to die. And I have all of these dickheads in my life, but they're in my kids' lives as well, messing with their heads. And if my kids can put a brave smile on their face and get themselves to school every day and try and carry on with a norm when nothing was normal, I had no excuses to feel sorry for myself, because everything that I'd lost, they'd lost. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I had in my life was myself and them. The only thing they had was themselves and me. And I needed to finally be accountable and not feel sorry for anyone who's left my life, because I had to believe that God was going to bring blessings into my life. I had to believe that things were going to get better, because I died 4 times the first time round. So when people ask me, what is my greatest failure? Death. I failed miserably 4 times at dying, and I'm still here. And if I am still here, regardless of how bleak my life might seem, I am going to have to give this crazy thing that we call life a bloody good shot. Yeah. Because I'm here for a reason. I didn't die. Yeah. Then I had a second stroke, and I didn't die from that. So there is a purpose. And I think a lot of people struggle to find their purpose. And when you find it, it's a game changer. It's a life changer. And you fly. And my purpose is to inspire as many people as I possibly can, to show people that the only limitations in their life is what they put in front of themselves. The only building blocks that they need to knock down is the building blocks they put there. Because anything is possible. Anything is achievable. You can do anything. I've done marathons in my wheelchair that I would have probably shied away from doing on my legs. I'd have gone, ooh, that's too hard. I didn't even train for it. I just did it. And you have to come into your coming into your own. But the good thing is I have a very secret weapon, and there's quite a lot of millions of people around the world. I think we're in every single corner of the planet, us Irish people. And that is that I'm Irish, and I'm seriously stubborn. So when someone tells me, I don't understand the word can't, that is the biggest swear word on the planet to me. When someone says to me, oh, you can't do that, then my head comes on to go, no, I'm going to show you. Yeah. I can do it, because my granny bred a warrior. And she kept telling me when I was a little girl that you're my little warrior. So I was going to, even though she's not, I was going to prove to my granny the word she used for me as a child. I was going to prove that I was that as an adult.
So from your learnings then, and what you've kind of gone through, and as you said, like the kids being a focus of probably motivation and inspiration for you in order to get your mindset right and to get yourself in a position where you can inspire and help. What is the lesson that you then teach your kids, or what's the lesson that you kind of share to them when they try and take on the everyday world challenges, you know?
Truth. Stay in truth. Okay. In every aspect of your life, you lead from love and you stay in truth. And if something is not truthful, then you stay away from it. Because that's when you go down rabbit holes. That's when you start playing the victim. That's when you start blaming other people for things that happen in your life. That's when and I always say to them, show me your crowd and I will show you your future. If you do not surround yourself with, and there are brilliant people in this world. We see a lot of non-brilliant people on the news, and we hear a lot of it on social media because people love to bitch. They really love to bitch. But there are billions of people on this planet, and there are millions of them that are shit hot people, the best people on the planet. And I make my kids accountable. They're grounded now. I have my eldest. So my eldest is not home anymore. But the other three eldest, 15, 14 and 13-year-old, I call them hostiles. I am going into hostile territory. This is called Army Camp Kelly. And they will conform to truth, and they hate it. And when they don't take accountability for stuff, and they do the blame game and they do the victim, and they can't follow basic instructions and rules, they get grounded. And Keith always says I'm too hard on them, but when they get out in that big wide world, it's going to be even harder. And if I can't teach my kids about accountability and being responsible for their actions and their choices and their decisions, and not playing the blame game on anyone, if I can't teach my kids about honesty and to be an honest person, no matter where they go in life, if they get a little bit of money or if they get a good job, they'll get ahead of themselves and they become people that they don't want to be, and they go down a path that they don't want to go down. And yes, people learn when they go down bad routes, but you don't have to go down the bad routes to learn, because life is hard enough. My kids have learned so much already of loss, of grief, of heartache, and they're thriving. Why? Because their mommy's thriving. Because I refuse to quit. I refuse to lay down and allow people to be in control of my life. I refuse to be a victim, or I refuse to have bullies in my life. And when they saw their mommy be accountable, and I sat with them and I apologized for decisions that I'd made, and for choices that I'd made, and I promised them that I was going to make better ones. Because if I'd have stayed in my relationship that I was in, what was I showing my kids? I was showing my kids that as a man, it's okay to abuse a woman. It is okay to be unfaithful. It is okay to lie and deceive and hurt someone so much that you just make them cry every day. But as a woman, it's okay to take that. As a woman, we should accept that and just plod along and go with it. I wasn't teaching my kids any good values, morals and principles. I thought I was, but I really wasn't. And things I thought I was hiding, and there's a lot of parents out there in miserable relationships and they're hiding, and they think, oh, my kids don't know what we're going through. They know an awful lot more than what they make out they do.
Did you find that
They're
out?
just very forgiving. Yeah, I did. I found it out, and I had to listen. And I didn't want to hear some of the stuff they had to say, but for us to heal as a family, they had to be able to be honest with me. And I had to listen to their brutal honesty and take accountability and apologize to my kids. And as a family, we made a plan to move forward in our lives. And I firmly went in the driving seat because they were babies. They can't be in control. Even a 15-year-old, you know, my 15-year-old stepson, he's 5'11", he's 75 kilogram of muscle, and he's just signed for a Super League team. You know, he's fabulous, but he's 15. Emotionally 15. He might look as if he's 18, but emotionally he's 15, and it's not his job to carry an adult. It's an adult's job to carry them until they can do it for them.
I think hats off to you for doing that, because I think there's a massive amount of bravery in what you did to take accountability, and also then to like, people can say it, but you can only show it through actions, right? So as much as you talk and stuff, it's through actions, and then it's by doing those actions, people believe in you, and people actually follow you, and then people actually learn from you, right? So
yeah,
bringing your families together. So essentially, yourself and Keith, then after Keith became your coach or your personal trainer, then following on from that, you guys decided, right, let's give it a shot. And that was how long? 3 or 4 years ago?
We've been together over 4 years now.
Yeah.
I've known him years now. I don't even know how it happened. I was he stayed in contact with me. I stopped training with him. There was personal issues going on in my life, and it was too hard, and I stopped training. And he kept in contact, asking how things were doing. And I set up a charity called Go Pink to help people who struggle emotionally, mentally, and physically with things. And I was doing that, and a gentleman wanted to be a part of that with me, and it didn't work. And so I had to let him go. And when I let him go, I just let people know that there was a different vision, and he wasn't part of it anymore, but that people didn't have to worry. It was still going to be there. I was still going to be there. I wasn't going to kind of renege on the promise that I'd made. And Keith saw that. I did a live, and he saw it, and he messaged me to say, look, I just seen your live. I'm just, is everything okay? I said, yeah, I'm fine. He said, well, I kind of read through your eyes that it might have not been fine. Keith's very good at reading people, ridiculously good at reading people. You can have a poker face and he will know what hand you're holding. It's ridiculous how he can pick it up. And but I'm lucky that he's like that, because he picked up that I was struggling. And I went for a coffee, and I jumped at the chance. He went, oh, you jumped at the chance to go for a coffee with me? I said, listen, I'm homebound all the time with 4 kids, never speaking to an adult. Of course, I'm going to jump at the chance, a little bit of adult conversation. And I enjoy your company. We went for a coffee, and I didn't see Keith, the personal trainer. I saw Keith, the man. And we started talking about our belief in the universe and the power of the universe and the Holy Spirit and God. And every time he would speak, it's like, oh my gosh, he's just picking my brain. My thoughts are coming out of his gob. This is so weird. And I remember, let me find it. And I remember it was the June. And when God speaks to me, I have my little book and I write down little notes. So God spoke to me saying, it was June 2016. Remember that the Lord will never let any relationship work with a man who he hasn't sent for me. If he doesn't have the Lord's Spirit, don't waste your time. And I wrote that down. And it was the October. Me and Keith went for a coffee. Now, nowhere that I thought he was going to be the man from the Lord that the Lord has sent. Not at all. Then when he started talking, I literally, when they say look for something, you fall for someone hook, line and sinker. It's all in the movies. It's a Disney fairy tale. It's not real. Well, I was cynical. I didn't believe in true love. I didn't believe in this, this fairy tale of love. And within a blink of an eye, it happened. Everything changed for me. I thought, oh my gosh. Mm-hmm.
So when you saw Keith,
the man I'm supposed to be,
not the personal trainer, when you saw Keith, the man out in public, out in the kind of the open, without the security of the gym behind him, you saw a different person.
Yeah, I just saw an amazing spirit. His energy was so uplifting, and he was just relaxing. We were laughing and joking, and we really enjoyed each other's company.
Thank you for listening to part 1 of this conversation. To find out more about Riona, visit at Riona Kelly Official on Instagram, Twitter and LinkedIn. Stay up to date on all future episodes by hitting the subscribe option, or if you want to find out more, visit whatmakesyoutick.net.